Alright, let's get one thing straight before we dive into all the crazy virus stuff. The real story actually starts with Mother Miranda and the incredibly old Megamycete, not with Umbrella. Miranda is this insane and brilliant scientist who lost her daughter Eva to the Spanish flu. Understandably, she's devastated, and one day is wandering around this cave system near her village and stumbles into this fungal organism called the Megamycete. Now, this thing is incredibly ancient. We're talking centuries old at minimum, and it's basically a living memory bank that operates like a hive mind. The Megamycete can store the consciousness and memories of anyone it absorbs, which is exactly what Miranda needed to hear. She realized she could potentially bring her daughter back by finding the right vessel and using the mold's power to recreate Eva's personality. Miranda starts experimenting with the mold, developing what would be known as the mold strain and creating these parasitic organisms called Cadeaux that she could use to infect the villagers in her remote European settlement. Through years of trial and error, she manages to create successful test subjects who retained their intelligence and gained incredible abilities. These became the four lords we encounter in Resident Evil Village: Lady Dimitras and her vampiric daughters, the fish-obsessed Salvatore Moreau, the metal-manipulating Carl Eisenberg, and Donna Beneviento. All owe their powers to Miranda's Cadeau experiments. The less successful subjects became lichen-type creatures that roamed the village, while the complete failures just died horribly. Miranda essentially turned herself into the ruler of this isolated community, positioning herself as a religious figure they called Mother Miranda, while secretly conducting her twisted resurrection experiments. Miranda wasn't working alone. She had a student, a young researcher named Oswald Spencer, who was fascinated by her work and her vision of creating superior beings through biological manipulation. Spencer learned everything he could from Miranda about genetic enhancement and the potential for creating a master race, but he ultimately decided to pursue a different path using viruses instead of fungus. Miranda actually let him take samples of the mold to experiment with, which you can find out more about in those documents at the end of Village when you're playing as Chris. Miranda's influence on Spencer was so profound that she essentially became the godmother of the entire Umbrella Corporation, making her the true catalyst behind every break, every monster, and every tragedy that followed throughout the series to present day. The Megamycete's influence stretches way beyond just Village though. It's what created Evelyn in Resident Evil 7, and it's what's affecting the Winters family throughout both games. The mold can regenerate lost limbs, store memories, and even bring back people from the dead in a sense. Let's clear up a huge misconception right off the bat. The Progenitor Virus was not introduced in Resident Evil 5. I keep seeing people say this, but it's totally wrong. The Progenitor Virus showed up in Resident Evil Code Veronica, where Alexia Ashford writes about the mother virus discovered by Spencer in her research files. Then we get more information in the Resident Evil 1 remake, then Resident Evil 0, and only after all that did Resident Evil 5 give us the full backstory. The Progenitor Virus is this ancient pathogen that's been floating around in various organisms for thousands of years, mostly as inactive junk DNA. But here's the fine print. It's not actually the sun and trippy flowers themselves. The virus is this ancient supervirus that just happens to be triggered into an active state by the very specific environmental conditions around those particular flowers in that exact location in West Africa. Spencer, along with James Marcus and Edward Ashford, discovered the virus on December 4th, 1967, and each of them had their own vision for what to do with it. Spencer was obsessed with creating a master race of superhumans who could rule the world. Basically, his own twisted version of cracked Captain America's running around. Marcus was all about the bioweapons applications, especially after he got obsessed with using leeches in his experiments. Ashford was into the genetic engineering side, but honestly, him and Marcus couldn't work together to save their lives because of their egos. The thing about the Progenitor Virus is that it's incredibly selective about host. Most organisms that get exposed to it basically get cooked in the worst way possible and just die horribly. But the rare few that could successfully bond with it undergo incredible transformations. This selectivity is what made it so valuable and dangerous. You never knew if it would create a superhuman or just kill someone outright. The T-Virus is where everything really goes to hell, and it's all thanks to Dr. James Marcus and his weird obsession with leeches. Marcus created the T-Virus by combining the Progenitor Virus with leech DNA, which is why T-Virus creatures have always been vulnerable to fire throughout the series. The virus basically attacks the central nervous system, kills the host within hours, then reanimates the dead tissue into what we know as zombies. But here's what makes the T-Virus hit different. It's incredibly adaptable. In humans, you get shambling zombies with that overwhelming drive to grub on flesh. In dogs, you get those nightmare-fueled Cerberus-type creatures. Crows become these infected, flying virus spreaders that can cover huge distances. Even plants get affected. Like holy shit, creating massive carnivorous monsters like Plant 42 from the first game. The T-Virus also enabled the creation of more sophisticated bioorganic weapons like the Tyrant series. Here's something that doesn't get talked about enough. Those BOWs like Mr. X and Nemesis wear special suits to keep their T-Virus mutations in check. When those suits get damaged or destroyed, that's when shit really gets out of hand. Remember when Mr. X transforms into Super Tyrant in Leon's story? That's his suit failing and the virus causing uncontrollable mutations. Same thing happens with Nemesis. His various forms throughout Resident Evil 3 are the result of his suit getting progressively more damaged. The virus spreads through practically whatever. Everything's invited to the cookout. Air, water, direct contact, infected animals make containment nearly impossible once an outbreak starts. That's exactly what happens in Raccoon City, where a single leak led to the complete annihilation of an entire metropolitan area. There's also this lesser known strain called the Mind Virus that was used to mess with the STARS team, affecting their memories and perceptions. It shows just how versatile the T-Virus could be when used for psychological warfare instead of just creating monsters. Speaking of Marcus and his leech obsession, we need to talk about what happened in Resident Evil 0. Marcus developed a unique strain of the T-Virus that specifically targeted leeches, creating these horrifying mutations that could work together as a collective organism. The virus allowed the leeches to form larger creatures, even mimicking human forms when needed. I don't even know how you land on this, but Marcus was absolutely fascinated by the idea of a hive mind organism, and leeches of all things were perfect for his experiments because they already survive in harsh conditions and had this natural tendency to swarm together. His research facility became this nightmarish laboratory where he would expose captured leeches to different T-Virus variants, watching them mutate and develop new collective behaviors. The infected leeches could coordinate attacks, share information through some kind of biological communication system, and even sacrifice individual members for the good of the colony, basically turning them into a living bioweapon army. Reminds me of like a bunch of evil ants doing the most for the queen. What made this disturbing was that Marcus himself eventually became part of this leech collective after his death. The leeches reformed him, creating a pseudo-Marcus that retained his memories and personality, but was actually just a colony of infected leeches working together. Some crazy work. When Spencer had Marcus assassinated in 1988, the leeches that had been feeding on his research and body managed to absorb his consciousness somehow, probably through the T-Virus's ability to preserve neural patterns in dead tissue. This leeched Marcus hybrid could perfectly mimic his appearance and mannerisms, making it nearly impossible to tell that the real Marcus was dead. The creature even retained Marcus's scientific knowledge and his burning desire for revenge against Spencer and Umbrella, which is what drove the events of Resident Evil 0 10 years later. It's one of the most unsettling concepts in the entire series because it raises questions about what consciousness really is and whether death is truly final in a world where viruses can preserve and reconstruct personalities. Alexia Ashford was a legitimate genius, but she was also completely batshit insane. She created the T-Veronica Virus by combining the Progenitor Virus with plant DNA and genetic material from a queen ant. What made T-Veronica different from the T-Virus was that it allowed hosts to retain their intelligence and higher brain functions while gaining incredible mutative abilities. But here's the part I see a lot of people miss. The only reason Alexia survived her infection was because she put herself into a cryogenic coma for 15 years. The virus isn't just slow acting, it's potentially lethal unless you take the adaptation process incredibly slow. During those 15 years, her body gradually adapted to the virus, allowing her to control its effects when she finally awakened, like a devil fruit in One Piece. The plant DNA component gave the T-Veronica infected incredible abilities. They could manipulate vegetation, merge with plant matter, and even create organic weapons from their own bodies, which to me is actually OP. Alexia could transform at will, sprouting wings, shooting projectiles, and commanding other infected creatures. Interestingly enough, the virus behaved differently in different climates. In the frigid Antarctic environment, it spread slowly and had trouble taking hold. But in South America's warmer climate, T-Veronica reached enormous proportions and threatened entire ecosystems. Temperature played a huge role in how effective the virus could be. Dr. William Birkin's G-Virus represents one of the most horrifying concepts in the series: unlimited, uncontrolled evolution. Unlike other viruses that created relatively stable mutations, the G-Virus treated its host as raw material for continuous biological experimentation. Infected individuals would constantly evolve, growing new limbs, organs, and body parts in response to damage or environmental pressures. Like, yikes. The G-Virus also had this twisted reproductive fetish. It compelled hosts to seek out genetically compatible targets and implant embryos into them, creating a nightmarish cycle of infection and birth. These weren't normal reproductive processes. We're talking about chest-bursting horror movie shit, like straight out of Aliens, where new G creatures would literally tear their way out of their host. When Birkin himself got mortally wounded and injected himself with his own creation, cause that's how it always happens, he became the ultimate demonstration of the virus's power. Each time players encountered G. Birkin in Resident Evil 2, he had undergone further mutations, becoming larger, more powerful, and more alien. The virus essentially turned him into a living laboratory where evolution happened in real time and over days, not decades. One thing that needs to be clarified though, and let me know in the comments if you've seen something different, was that the G-Virus doesn't stand for Golgotha virus, like some sources claim. That was just a developmental name that got scrapped before the final game. Capcom has never really confirmed that designation in any of their printed materials that I was able to find. But again, just let me know down below. The T-Phobos Virus was Umbrella's answer to creating bioweapons for aquatic environments, and it was developed aboard the research vessel Queen Zenobia. This specialized variant could trigger rapid mutations in marine life, creating sea creatures that were faster, more aggressive, and more dangerous than anything nature ever produced. What made T-Phobos so damn effective was its ability to create hybrid organisms that combined traits from multiple species. You'd get creatures that had the speed of a shark, the attacks of an electric eel, and the armor plating of a deep-sea crustacean all in one nightmare package. The very nature of underwater environments meant these creatures could attack from any angle, making them incredibly difficult to combat. With the shockingly low amount of information we already have about the deep sea and all the creatures chilling we have no idea about, this for me is some of the scariest shit I would never want to see. The signature monster of this virus was the Scarmiglione, a massive mutated fish encountered in Resident Evil Revelations that perfectly demonstrated the virus's power to transform ordinary marine life into aquatic nightmares. This grotesque creature showcased how T-Phobos could create entirely new forms of terror adapted specifically for underwater combat. The aquatic environment also provided unique advantages for virus transmissions. Water served as both a spreading medium and a protective element, allowing infected creatures to remain hidden beneath the surface while the virus spread to new hosts. Now, we get to one of the most psychologically disturbing concepts in the series, the T-Phobos Virus from Revelations 2. This was Alex Wesker's masterpiece, and it's absolutely diabolical. The virus was designed to remain completely dormant in infected hosts until they experienced intense fear, at which point it would activate and begin the mutation process. The T-Phobos Virus is a retrovirus descended from the Progenitor Virus, developed to create a superhuman with no negative side effects. Alex Wesker was trying to find the perfect vessel for her mind transfer experiments, and T-Phobos was her screening method. The virus could distinguish between different emotional responses. Specifically, targeting fear while ignoring other strong emotions like anger or excitement. The virus created a feedback loop where the natural fear response to danger actually creates more danger. When someone gets scared, they mutate into something that scares other people, potentially triggering their infections too. It's psychological warfare at its most cruel. People who could control their fear might remain unaffected indefinitely, while those who panic would transform into creatures called afflicted. These weren't your typical zombies. They were more like degenerated humans who retained some intelligence but had lost most of their humanity. The virus also affected people differently based on gender, with male hosts becoming afflicted and female hosts typically dying from the infection. Alex herself fell victim to her own creation when she felt a moment of fear and doubt upon her planned suicide. Instead of dying cleanly, the T-Phobos virus activated and transformed her into a massive, grotesque creature that retained her intelligence but twisted her body into something truly horrifying. Albert Wesker's Uroboros virus was derived from the original Progenitor Virus, but it was designed with a specific goal in mind, to create what Wesker considered the next step in human evolution. This wasn't just a bioweapon. It was Wesker's tool for remaking the world in his image. The virus was extremely selective, causing fatal mutations in most hosts unless they possessed specific genetic markers or antibodies. This selectivity was completely intentional. Wesker believed that only those with superior genetic traits deserved to survive and inherit the Earth. Shit honestly sound like something Hitler would say. The virus served as both a weapon and a judgment system. Compatible hosts gained incredible abilities, manifesting black tentacle-like appendages that could merge with and control organic matter. These weren't just weapons, they were extensions of the host's will, capable of complex manipulation and even absorption of additional biological material. Infected hosts could grow in size and power by consuming other organic matter. The ultimate expression of the Uroboros virus was the Uroboros Virus, a towering, tentacled beast that absorbed organic matter to grow stronger and more dangerous. This massive creature, faced by Chris and Sheva in Resident Evil 5, demonstrated the virus's terrifying potential to create seemingly unstoppable monstrosities that could adapt and evolve in real time during combat. But here's another point I see a lot of people get confused. The Uroboros virus was never designed to cure cancer or anything like that. Wesker engineered it specifically to use against the entire world, forcing humanity to evolve or die. His plan was to release it globally, eliminating most of the human population while elevating the survivors to a new evolutionary level that he would rule over as a godlike figure. The chrysalid virus, aka the C virus, represents one of the most unpredictable and dangerous viral weapons ever created. Developed by Carla Radames to fulfill Derek Simmons' twisted goal of global reshaping, this hybrid virus combines the regenerative properties of the G virus with the controlled mechanisms of T-Veronica, creating a twisted pathogen that causes rapid, unpredictable mutations that can completely transform the infected in ways that defy biological logic. What makes the C virus terrifying is its ability to create Javo, mutated soldiers who retain their intelligence and combat training while gaining supernatural healing abilities and the capacity for spontaneous mutation. When Javo sustains enough damage, they enter a cocoon state and emerge as complete mutation species, entirely new creatures that bear no resemblance to their original human form. These transformations are completely random and can result in anything from armored brutes to flying insectoids to aquatic horrors. The virus spreads through multiple vectors, including direct injection, airborne gas dispersion, and even through contaminated water supplies. Most disturbing of all, the C virus can revive the recently dead as zombies, creating a dual threat scenario where you're dealing with both intelligent Javo and mindless undead simultaneously. The signature monster of the C virus outbreak was Lepotica, a grotesque bloated creature that could emit clouds of C virus gas, instantly transforming entire crowds into zombies with a single breath. Other notable CMS include the Nopid, an armored brute with incredible strength, the Mesid, a flying insectoid capable of aerial attacks, and the terrifying Ustanok, a relentless mutated juggernaut that pursued its targets with mechanical precision and seemingly unlimited endurance. Las Plagas represents a completely different approach to biological control. Instead of viruses, we're dealing with ancient parasites that were discovered in amber beneath Salazar Castle in Spain. These prehistoric organisms don't kill their host. Instead, they infiltrate the nervous system and take direct control while leaving memories, skills, and intelligence intact. The parasites operate through a hierarchical system where certain individuals can issue commands to others lower in the chain. This created organized groups of infected humans called ganados, who could coordinate complex activities while remaining completely subservient to their parasitic masters. What makes Las Plagas terrifying is that infected hosts retain all their human capabilities. They can use tools, weapons, and whip vehicles with the same skill they had before infection. They can communicate, set traps, and execute sophisticated tactical maneuvers. When under extreme stress, the parasites can trigger dramatic physical mutations, including the infamous Plaga head, where the parasite bursts from the host's skull. The most impressive demonstration of Las Plagas' power was El Gigante, a giant mutated human that resulted from Las Plagas infection combined with forced growth treatments. This massive creature served as a living siege weapon, showcasing how the parasites could be used to create towering monstrosities that retained enough intelligence to follow complex commands while possessing the raw strength to demolish entire structures. Enhanced versions of Las Plagas have been created that incorporate viral elements, creating hybrid creatures that possess both parasitic control mechanisms and viral mutation capabilities. This blurring of lines between different biological agents shows how advanced bioweapon research has truly become. The NE-alpha parasite, better known as the Nemesis parasite, was designed to enhance existing bioorganic weapons with superior intelligence and relentless hunting instincts. Instead of creating new creatures from scratch, it was meant to upgrade already dangerous BOWs into perfect predators. When implanted into a specially prepared tyrant host, the parasite created the infamous Nemesis T-types, a relentless pursuer that could wield weapons, adapt to combat situations, and mutate further when damaged. Unlike standard tyrants that operated on simple programming, this enhanced creature could analyze target behavior patterns, predict movements, and develop counter strategies in real time. What made Nemesis nothing to play with was its ability to infect others with a supercharged T-Virus variant, turning its victims into additional bioweapons under its control. The parasite granted remarkable resilience and regenerative capabilities, allowing Nemesis to survive massive damage and continue functioning. It could even incorporate weapons or environmental elements into its own body to become more effective, making it one of the most persistent and dangerous enemies in the franchise.